Alright, this was a warm-up match for our tournament that actually happened about 2 weeks ago. So this is an older game. Dan brought his Italians, some Avantes mostly with some of the regular tanks, artillery, and I think that was about it. He focused mostly on some Avantes. Meanwhile, I brought my Shermans, some Stuarts, some artillery, and my M10s to try to deal with anything heavy which wasn't showing up. Alright, on turn 1, Dan moves up his main force on the top of your screen there, um, and is trying to flank my force. My priests are up there on the hill. My M10s, as you can see, are blowing up his Semavantes, so they get in good work, but my priests couldn't range in and start working on his artillery, but his artillery was able to range in on me, so that was a significant advantage for him. On turn 2, he used his artillery to bombard my M10s and actually bailed one out. This would be a problem in the very next turn. Then you can see that he masses his forces and bails out some of my priests trying to flank me. And of course on my turn, my bailed out M10 didn't get back in and they ran away. Little lesson to you kids, always bring 3 M10s, especially if you're going to put favorable position on there. So a lot of points just ran off the board. So I slide my main force, my Stuarts and my Shermans, over to my left to protect the left flank from his massing tanks. I start to manage to take out some of his tanks, but that's a lot of tanks to go through, even with stabilizers. One thing to note is that he's able to use his artillery, where mine kept getting bailed out, could not range in. This was a very frustrating thing. So now with all my tanks moved over to left flank, his Semavantes on my right flank start moving forward, threatening my right flank. Dan continues to close the gap on the left flank, trying to flank all my very big tanks. He's having a hard time getting through my armor, and I'm just having a hard time hitting him, except for those little guys on the top of the hill. I'm working them over, and I tried going from the smallest tank to the biggest tank. I know that doesn't sound very smart, but I want to make sure that those little tanks do not flank me and really do damage. I feel like my Sherman armor should be able to hold up even against Semavante damage. 8 versus 6, feel pretty good about that, and especially when he doesn't have infantry coming in to take me out. So I continue to work on his little tanks, making sure that they can't get around due to light tanks, and then the M14s, and then start working on the Semavantes. You'll notice that my priests are gone, they ran away, but my Stuarts are there, and that's another reason for me to go after his smaller tanks, is that, those Stuarts aren't going to last very long, especially getting hit on a 2-up. So I figured go after the small tanks, especially with the Stuarts, while they're there to give me the shots. One thing to note that while this battle here raging on the left is going on, I realize that bailing out is very important. The Italians just, if you bail them out, it's like you missed, because they're going to get back in on that 2-up to remount. Whereas the Americans are 4-up, so bailing me out is much more effective than me bailing him out. So as you can see, he brings up his Semavante, starts shooting at my infantry. I feel pretty good about this left flank. I'm really whittling him down, taking out a lot of his tanks, and he's just not getting through with all my armor, even with all those Semavantes. All his screening tanks are getting blown up, and I feel very confident that I can hold this left flank with the forces that I have right now. Probably realizing this, Dan moves his Semavantes over the hill towards that battle raging on my left. And if those Semavantes come around and start flanking my Shermans, that's a totally different story. Now he's got anti-tank 8, even at long range, versus my side armor 4. And he should be able to make short work of my Shermans as long as he can flank them there. Realizing that I'm pretty much on the clock now, I start making a couple desperate moves. I take my Stuarts and I start going behind his M14s, what's left of them. His little tanks, the light tanks, they ran off, or what was left of them ran off. And so all I have left is really some Avantes. I've got them, bailed out again. Doesn't really do much. I really needed to hit those firepowers, and just could not take out those Semavantes, while his other Semavantes are coming over to my right. Yeah, so Dan's next move was to bring those Semavantes around. He's taking shots on my flank, and they have to be dealt with. So my plan was to try to crush that flanking Semavantes. Brought out my Rangers to try to deal with them, and they could not get in on the assault. He got enough hits to push me back. I felt very strongly if I got in with my Rangers, I could have taken out those Semavantes or do significant damage. But then I had to use my Stuarts, my Shermans. I only had 3 left at that point. All the Stuarts, everything was gone, and so I had the HQ and 2 Shermans ready to go, and I just couldn't take him out. So his Semavantes on my left just went up onto the hill, took the objective, and Dan got the victory. Just very good, solid tactics coming through. He made sure that I spread out my forces as much as possible and used his massive amount of tanks to very good effect. I don't know what else I really could have done other than make my rolls on the M10s, because the M10s were really doing major damage when I did not, when those M10s left the board. That was a huge blow. So that was really list building mistake rather than a tactical mistake. So yeah, if I bring M10s, they're definitely going to be 3 M10s from now on. Thanks for watching.